So it's really a weird story that's like right place, right time. Couldn't sort of reproduce it today, and it felt weird at the time. Don't get me wrong, it felt really weird at the time. My family and friends thought I had lost my mind. I was practicing law at a private firm in Missouri. I had two little kids. When I first came to TPM, my kids were like 5 and 4, 6 and 4, something like that. But it was kind of a process, right? I was practicing law. I had been a journalist before. I'd been in the alt news weekly world where I'd come up. And Katrina hit Louisiana, honestly, and that had a lot to do with me starting to think, I'm just not sure I'm doing the right thing. I'm just not sure I'm making enough of a difference in what I'm doing. I feel like a missing piece here. And around that time, a friend just turned me on to Josh, and like repeatedly, he would just keep sending me this stuff. And I was like, blogs, I don't know, do I need this? I don't need this. But finally I started reading Josh's stuff, and I'd honestly, I'd get a little annoyed. Like I'd send friends like some thought on something happening by email. And then I'd see like 10 minutes before that, Josh had posted almost exactly the same thing. I'm like, who the fuck is this guy?
Let's talk about Davis-Bacon.
This is a wage cut for the people doing reconstruction down in the area, for the people who are going to rebuild New Orleans, Gulf Coast of Mississippi, et cetera. It's pretty much the first thing out of the box when the president thought, what can I do to speed things along and help things out? I want to cut everybody's wages.
And so I became, in essence, a source, right? Like a lawyer source for TPM. And because I still had, Louisiana political contacts. Missouri was always an interesting state. So they're just things that were happening that I was just familiar with and could pass along to them in a way that was useful. And then when he started Muckraker, I think the first day that Paul and Justin started, he had them like call me, and we just kind of ran through some of the existing stories and things that I could be helpful on and things I knew about, which in retrospect is really weird, But it was cool. I felt like I was making some difference, right? I'm sure readers experience it now when they send us something and we end up doing a story on it, or Josh ends up talking about it in the blog. It feels like, okay, well, at least the dial moves somewhere, right? And so that was kind of the impetus. And yeah, at some point, as I recall it, Josh was just getting tired, right? He was working all the time. He couldn't really take any breaks. And I think he wanted, it may have been a weekend, but I think he just wanted to take a vacation or something. And he was like, hey, would you mind, just like filling in? And I was like, wow, that'd be so freaking cool. Can I do that? I don't know. Maybe I can do that. I just kind of wanted to stay low key. Right. And so we landed on just using my initials the same way he had been as a reader writing in. Right. And so, I don't think we would do that now. I'm not even sure journalistically that's like all that defensible. But at the time, it just made sense. Right. What we were dealing with was like, the rotted and corrupt sort of second Bush term, by which like Iraq has fallen apart. Katrina has sort of exposed to everybody that Iraq wasn't just an accident, like that the incompetence and the sort of denial of reality was baked in deep, right? And so I think things started to shift right around then. But it was also like at that point we're several years into this Republican majority, and there's just no accountability, right? And so like whether it's Tom DeLay or Abramoff or just all of these sort of, and that's what Muckraker, that's why it came to be. There was just like so much public corruption that you just couldn't tell it all, right? And it wasn't being covered in a way that sort of identified it as like, look at all this public corruption that's happening, and it's all connected in the sense that not each story is directly connected, but like this is a theme. It's not an accident. This is happening the way it's happening, right? And so Muckraker was partly intended to like give life to that and tell that as one big story. And then the U.S. attorney scandal, right? The first little inkling that we had that something was amiss came in late 06, like December of 06, when Bud Cummings was fired down in Arkansas and a Karl Rove protege was put in. And that's like, what? Something's happening here. So that was after the 06 midterms. And then that's when things really got rolling. I left practice law in 06, didn't come on with TPM officially until 07, but was involved, in numerous ways sort of over the course of that year. And so that was, so the U.S. attorney scandal then in 07 is really kind of what I remember about early TPM. And it kind of is my formative early TPM experience. And that's all Paul Keel and Justin Rood and all the great work they did that year. But just again, by this point, so it's 07 as I start, and then Alberto Gonzalez resigns, and kind of the whole series of things that happens. And so it's a very eventful year, right? And just to be clear, like everything our people are doing, all their work is getting recognized and noticed, and it's on TV every night. And so there's just like this sense of like, this is this crazy thing that we're doing, but it's working, right? It's working in so many interesting ways that we never imagined and never expected.
When all else fails, an attorney will tell you, try to bury the other side in paperwork. The House Judiciary Committee asked for records about the 8 fired U.S. attorneys. So the White House gave it 144 pages just of the email exchanges.
If the president calls up the attorney general and says, I want so-and-so in Kentucky indicted tomorrow, whatever you've got to do, just make it happen. It's not clear to me that that would break any specific statute. It's obviously wrong. I think it's almost the definition of what the impeachment, the impeachment clause is for. But is there a specific statute? I don't know. And I think it's basically similar here. This sort of stuff, you're not supposed to use United States attorneys to basically advance the interests of the Republican Party by indicting as many Democrats as you can. But in at least a couple of these cases, that is why these guys were fired.
I still haven't ever met Josh, right? At this point, it's 2008. We have gotten a International Press Freedom Award from this Switzerland-based press association. Josh, as everyone knows, is scared of flying, has no interest in going. Paul and Justin have moved on by this point. And I'm like, well, I didn't really have a lot directly to do with this, but like, we shouldn't just like snub this award. They want us to speak at this conference. And so I go to Belgrade in July of 2008 to pick up this award. And then I stop in New York on the way back and go to the New York office for the first time. I meet everybody, I meet Josh. At that point, I've been with TPM for like 1.5 years or 2 years, and I've been sort of overseeing everyone. But there were some people who still weren't sure I really existed, thought I was like some alter ego that Josh created in order to make it seem like he was covering more bases than he really was, right? It was just a weird time. So that notion that you could work with these people for so long and have such an intense sort of bonding over everything that happened, right? At that point, it was the 2008 election, the election of Obama, the resignation of the attorney general, like all these things that we had done, but we'd done it all remotely, right? And so 2008 was kind of like when it all came together, and it felt more real. And then by 2009, we moved to, we got our first round of outside financing, which is what allowed me to move to DC, open the office, hire a DC bureau, bring Brian Beutler down from New York, and add Christina Bellantoni and Evan McMorris Santoro, and sort of form that first team down here, and away we went.